Good day, everyone. Meteorologist Mark Muller here. Great to have you here with me for this edition of Meteor Mark's Weather. We're tracking winter and spring here. Severe weather is going to blossom across parts of the southern plains with a massive blizzard expected here across the central and northern plains. We'll get into all the details, see how far east this inclement weather is likely to go. And come to mid to late week here across the East Coast, we could see a surge of tropical moisture as a low pressure barrels out of the eastern Gulf of Mexico up the U.S. East Coast and southeast Canada. We'll look at see if this is going to become a thing as we head into the first part of April as well. And could this add more insult to injury across already moisture laden East Coast? We'll get into all the details, see how much precipitation could be falling over the next couple weeks. So let's get into it. And just how much snowfall is going to fall with that blizzard across the northern plains. We could be looking at a solid 8 to 16 inches in many areas from the central plains all the way to the Canadian border and into parts of Ontario as well. And we're going to be watching that storm there across the U.S. East Coast as we get into the 28th into the 29th. Could this stir up something big here along the mid-Atlantic and parts of the Northeast into eastern Canada? And as we head towards, say, the first part of April, could we be getting into a massive wintry pattern as massive blocking takes root across Greenland and massive East Coast troughs just in time for spring? All right, so Monday severe weather outlook. We're looking at that rare enhanced variety here across northeastern Louisiana, western Mississippi here, and extreme southeastern Arkansas. Look at this. Even this area up here, marginal and western Iowa, as that low pressure heads to the north. But yeah, this is going to be a rough day across parts of the south central Gulf Coast states here. As we head into Tuesday here, this is what we're looking for here. This is going to be a very interesting day, even though we get rid of the slight and enhanced risk. We're still going to have that risk heading towards Indiana, parts of western Ohio, and then here along the Gulf Coast states from southern Alabama, as well as the panhandle of Florida, damaging wind, large hail. All right, so we'll take a look at the GFS, the Euro, and all our other models here. Let's take a look. We have that big blizzard there across parts of the central states as we head through the rest of Sunday into Monday. This low pressure is really going to start getting organized here across Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. This is where you're going to see those blizzard conditions really start to expand over the next 24, 36 hours if they haven't already begun. So as we continue in time, look what's also going to be happening here. Strong to severe thunderstorms are going to start developing across these areas here from Texas northeastward across Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana. Look at this squall line that really gets developing here. This is Monday morning around 11 a.m. So in addition to all the heavy snow here, even down into parts of the panhandle of both Texas and Oklahoma, all the way up to the Minnesota-Canadian border line, this is where you're going to start to see that squall line move to the east. By 8 p.m., you can see it's moving in the Mississippi River Valley. We still have snow hanging back here across parts of Kansas and Nebraska, all the way up to Minnesota. But this is a very complex storm. Look at this over here. This is quite an interesting feature. Most of this is going to actually stay offshore, and I will be touching on later in this forecast segment in this video, I'm going to be touching on what's going to happen with this storm across Canada. So I have your winter storm outlook for Canada as well. Please stay tuned for that if you want to skip ahead. I have timestamps down below. Look at this. Yeah, this storm heads to the east by the 26th, so we're getting into Tuesday here. It's actually dragging a squall line all the way from Ohio here, all the way down into Atlanta. So watch this. This is 2 p.m. This is on Tuesday afternoon. So this low is winding up across parts of Wisconsin here, spreading these thunderstorms further east. So we'll get some rain showers into parts of the Northeast, maybe some mixed precipitation as well into parts of northern New England, New Brunswick, and the Canadian Maritimes here. Now, look what starts to happen. We start to get high pressure building in behind this across the central part of the U.S. and Canada. That low kind of just retrogrades up here in the Hudson Bay. Now, look at this. This is that feature around the 28th that I was a little concerned about. It's actually going to come right out of the Gulf. It's actually forming right on the tail end of this front. So here it is. We have some stalled out thunderstorms here. You can actually see the area of low pressure across the Yucatan here. We have a couple areas of low pressure, and that's going to continue to funnel north. We're going to have tropical moisture and that's going to surge up the U.S. East Coast from southern Florida here the 28th, across northern Bahamas, and then eventually up here into parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. You can see this surge of tropical moisture heading up the coast, and then we get that low pressure initiating. So we're going to have a low pressure in the vicinity here on the 29th, heading on into, look at the Canadian. Yeah, this is where we could start to see this massive low explode here. Eastern Maine, parts of northern New Brunswick, heavy rain here across parts of Nova Scotia, even Newfoundland up here. And then high pressure building into the southeast. So yeah, you're going to see a nice Easter weekend across much of the south central and southeastern part of the areas. There's that area of snow to the north, and the west is really blasting with these storm systems. So look at this. This is going to be massive if this does form. Look at this is the day before Easter here. So if this does materialize, we're going to be looking at a tremendous blizzard here into parts of Maine and New Brunswick. Just to warn you here, this is a massive storm. And look at this. This is pretty slow moving here too. We go into Easter, it does start to tame down just a little bit. Here's our next Alberta Clipper style system. It's amazing we're talking about this here into April, but here it is, 31st, Easter Sunday. We could be looking at a cold rain here across parts of the Mid-Atlantic, Eastern Great Lakes. And look at here, snow here across parts of northern New England and southern Ontario and Quebec. That moves off the coast to explode, but it looks like it'll be too far east by this point. And then look at this. We start to get this system here to the south. We get a lot of overrunning moisture and some severe weather potential here as we head through April 2nd into April 3rd here. So we're going to start to line up these storms here across the southern U.S. And look at this. This is making a beeline for the U.S. East Coast. Could this actually head up the East Coast for the first week of April? Well, let's take a look at it here on the GFS. This has it heading up towards the Canadian Maritimes again. Something we'll have to keep an eye on. But look at this. You can start to see precipitation type snow here. Any snow showers we have left over into April 5th. So April is not looking like a very spring-like month to start off here. And we have a cold high pressure here across much of the Ohio Valley. But look at this. I want to draw your attention to this feature across parts of the Bahamas and Florida. Look at this tropical moisture. This is quite a surge. It's coming from Central America and the Eastern Pacific here. This is quite interesting, and we'll have to see if anything materializes with this, but a big old low pressure system heading up towards Bermuda at this time. All right, so if we take a look at the European model here, pretty much agreeing with the GFS. Our big storm here across the midsection really gaining ground. Heavy snow to the north, strong thunderstorms here across parts of the southern plains. You can see here high pressure dominating eastern Canada here. So look at this as we go out in time. Here it is, 2 p.m. on Monday here. So that squall line moving east across Texas, promoting, we're going to be seeing the squall line most of the night, Sunday night into Monday here across Texas, and then into parts of eastern Texas, Louisiana, the Mississippi River Valley. They see that snow continuing across the northern plains, central plains as well. This is a prolonged time period of snow. And look at this, strong thunderstorms, the Mississippi River Valley by 11 p.m. on Monday night. So this is just going to continue further east as we continue in time. Getting in the Ohio Valley by 11 a.m. Tuesday morning, you can see that lifting up into the northeast as we continue through Wednesday morning as well. And then we start to see that low pressure here across the eastern Gulf. There it is. There's evidence of it with a piece of energy here across the Yucatan. It seems like the tropics are already feeding into our weather here from the Gulf up the U.S. East Coast. And then look at this storm making a beeline here. The 28th, we have all this moisture lining up along the U.S. East Coast and Southeast Canada. We're going to continue to watch for this because we've had some flooding problems. We're going to continue to see this low pressure move up along the U.S. East Coast and eventually really affecting Southeast Canada and blowing up just in time for Easter weekend, in which we could see a lot of snow on the backside of this low pressure system. So high pressure building in across the southeast, as I showed you on the GFS, and then inclement weather continuing here across the midsection of the country into the mid-Atlantic just in time for Easter weekend. All right, so let's take a look at our HRRR Future Radar here. It is looking really stormy for Sunday evening across parts of the central plains here, and then of course our blizzard taking root here as that area of low pressure starts to really develop here across southwest Kansas. Look at these storms start to fire here across parts of the southern plains. There's that squall line moving into Dallas here towards 2 and 3 a.m., south towards San Antonio and Houston by about 8 a.m. here. Damaging wind, large hail. There's our area of low pressure and snow breaking out all along it to the north here. Look at this. So this is a major expansive system here, and watch what starts to happen. The southern part of the storm really starts to become super energized as we get these stronger cells developing towards noon on Monday. And look at the snow is not going anywhere here across the western part of this system up towards Minnesota, even southern part of Ontario up there. And then look what starts to happen. We start to see the squall line. This is 4 p.m. We're continuing to push this to the east Monday afternoon. We really start to see some damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornadoes across the Gulf Coast here into parts of Arkansas. That heads towards the Mississippi River towards 7 p.m. Look at this, heading on up towards parts of Illinois and Indiana. You might have some isolated severe Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning here, so watch out. Look at the squall line just west of New Orleans by this point. Snow continuing, the blizzard all the way up into parts of Minneapolis here. You're going to be teetering right on the edge, though. By this point, you will be switching over to rain, so it's going to be a back and forth up here. But look at this squall line heading right across the south here as we head towards 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning here. So this is really winding to the east here as we head in time. Look at towards Cleveland as we head towards Tuesday morning here. So this is looking pretty interesting. This storm's going to have wide impacts as it spreads to the east. And look at up here into parts of Iowa. We're switching back to snow here. So it's going to be a back and forth between winter and spring. So for our snowfall totals here, here's our European model, looking pretty well robust here from the central northern plains. There's the Four Corners region all the way up into Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Ontario. So that is going to be a massive blizzard. That is the feature as we go in time here. There it is. That is quite some snowfall totals. I'm thinking widespread 8 to 16 inches through the axis of this band here. Now, watch this. As we go through, there it is, Sunday, Easter Sunday, and then Monday. Look what happens afterwards. The European model, what it does with the storm, it actually pushes a band of snow here across parts of the eastern Great Lakes, mid-Atlantic, into southern New England. That's a development that we're going to have to keep a close eye on here. So for our snowfall here on the GFS, there it is across the northern plains, central and northern plains, heading up to Canada through this week. So this is what the snowfall is looking like. Let's just back that up because we're going to start later in the week for Maine and New Brunswick here. We're going to start seeing snow pile up, but there is the main feature we're looking at least through midweek. We're looking at a solid 8 to 16 plus inches of snow here from parts of Nebraska and all the way up through Minnesota and Wisconsin. So it's looking pretty interesting. And then we get this feature, this East Coast storm that I was telling you about from the 28th to the 29th. This is going to be moving into the 30th and 31st as well as we head towards Easter here. There it is, Easter weekend. Big time snows, maybe a feature here heading across southern Ontario as well. We'll have to keep an eye on it. And then additional snows accumulating the first week of April. So we're not done with snow in some of these snow belt areas of the Ohio Valley and eastern Great Lakes, and even here into northern New England as well. All right, here's our northern plains blizzard there from central Nebraska, eastern South Dakota, Minnesota. There it is, widespread 8 to 16 inch snowfall amounts. Those blizzard warnings are readily in effect here all the way through winter storm warnings as well. Many of them I think will be upgraded to blizzard warnings. And then as we get into the northeast here, not much snow, if any, at all this week, but watch this right after Easter weekend on the European model anyways. You know, this is pretty far out, but this is a trend we're going to have to keep an eye on here. Could we have some snow just after Easter? As we take a look at the GFS, this is a little bit different. Look at that big snowstorm there. This would occur over Easter weekend here across parts of Maine and New Brunswick, and then another storm kind of arcing out just north of Toronto near Ottawa. So we'll have to keep an eye on these trends as we go out in time. And there it is, the week after Easter. Could we be looking at some snowfall here? Possibly. All right, so our liquid equivalent precipitation totals here out of our mid-system here, we're just going to take this through Thursday here. You can see, look at the heavy rain here across parts of the Gulf Coast states, Mississippi River Valley, looking at 1 to 2.5 inches, locally higher 3-inch totals towards those red areas. A lot of this falling is frozen precipitation up here, 1.5 to 2.5 inches plus on average, and then we spread that to the east here. That East Coast storm Thursday into Friday could amount to a lot of moisture. Look at this. All the way from the Florida Panhandle up into the Carolinas into eastern New England, the same areas that got the systems of torrential rain before. So our latest European run here, the upper air pattern. As we go throughout the week, you can start to see this big old ridge developing in northeast North America here. A trough kicking in with our blizzard in the midsection with the severe weather outbreak. That ridge stays really parked here along the east coast through Thursday. You do start to see this storm, though. It does start to become a little bit more negatively tilted. This is that storm I'm a little concerned about with adding more rain along the coastal sections, more insult to injury here. And this looks to blow up pretty big as we head through, say, Easter weekend here and up into the Canadian Maritimes. Look what's forming behind it, though. This should ensure a nice Easter weekend here across parts of the South. But then we start to have this barrel in across the four corners as we head through April 3rd and 4th here, just in time for the new week of April. So let's pick up in April here with our CFS model. So I wanted to make note of this. Look what starts to happen here. This is the pattern that you snow lovers wanted to see in wintertime, not now that it's spring. Look at this massive high pressure, this blocking up here in Greenland. This is going to start to push the NAO index negative, and you know that's going to start with the U.S. East Coast troughs for eastern U.S. and Canada here. So essentially, we're going to start to see a massively stormy pattern as we head into April here. You can see these troughs along the U.S. East Coast, these fast-moving storms, and some of them could actually try to stall. Towards the middle of the month, we do start, right on the third week, we do start to get a ridge, but look how quickly that's replaced by this storminess as we head through later in the month. So overall, things are looking pretty stormy across the eastern part of North America through April. All right, so if we take a look at our Canadian winter storm outlook, we are starting off with a big winter storm across the Canadian Maritimes as we stretch from Sunday into Sunday evening here. That's going to be heading out into the Atlantic, well up towards Greenland at this point by Monday. So yeah, fast-moving pattern we're in. Here off the west coast, we have some showers moving in with some mountain snow, but there it is. This is that blizzard from the U.S. I wanted to tell you about. Look at this. This is going to be heading across Ontario from central, southern, and northeastern Ontario as we head through Monday into Tuesday. We're going to have a couple surges of it here. It does look like the rain-snow line does start to move into eastern Ontario once this low gets cranking and draws up some very warm air across Ontario and Quebec here. So we're going to start to see this moisture conglomerate here across southeastern Canada. You can see that rain-snow line moving all the way up here into southern Hudson Bay. That's crazy. And then we start to change back to snow showers here on the backside of it. Out ahead of it, some mixed precipitation across parts of eastern Canada here. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and much of Quebec staying all rain at this point. So big massive surge here of warmth into southeastern Canada as this Hudson Bay low really takes over. We do start to get some very big-time snows here across southwestern part of Canada. We'll have to keep an eye on that as we get some moisture into the Pacific Northwest to the U.S. that'll be crossing over, and some overrunning snow. Now look at this as we head towards the 28th and the 29th. This is that potential blizzard I was telling you about, New Brunswick area, eastern, extreme southeastern Quebec. These areas I'm very concerned about late week. We could be looking at snowfall in the order of 25 to 35 centimeters locally higher. If this materializes, there would be tremendous wind with this as well that would promote blizzard conditions. Here's the 31st, Easter Sunday. This does start to dwindle down a little bit as we kind of get this moisture plowing in from the Atlantic, and then we get our next Alberta Clipper type system. Look at the rest of Canada, with the exception for southern Ontario by this point, with some snow here into Ottawa, Montreal, these areas. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But it's a very quick moving system. You see high pressure really starts to build in across central and eastern Canada here. And as you can see, as we head towards April 3rd, we start to see those areas that have seen snow time and time again, the western part of Canada and then southeastern Canada continuing to get these plumes of snowfall moving in. So it's looking like a very active month here as we continue through the first part of April. Here is another snowstorm here across the Canadian Rockies, really spreading some heavy snow. This is good news, though. You need all this snowpack across Canada so that you don't get the wildfire season that you saw last summer, which was terrible. But here it is again. We're seeing another Canadian maritime low, 978 millibars to be exact here as we continue through the first full week of April. This just does, we're going to keep getting snowfall here. We're really getting hit hard. And you continue to see there's a Hudson Bay low drawing some rain showers all the way up into Ontario and Quebec. And then as we end here on April 9th, look at right along the U.S.-Canadian border, a big area of overrunning precipitation, which happens to be in the form of snow. So for our Canadian snowfall totals here, look at this. This is through midweek here. Look at Western Ontario, Central and Northeastern Ontario here. This is where we could be looking at 25 to 40 centimeters of snow in many areas. This is a big snowstorm. And then as we head through Easter weekend, look at this into New Brunswick, parts of Western Nova Scotia. Another big storm into Eastern Quebec as well. Look at this. So overall, and there's the west coast of Canada as well, getting in on the act. Lots of snow. So as we head through that first full week of April, look at these areas of extremely heavy snow. Widespread 20 to 40 plus centimeters in some of these areas. So big time snowstorms are going to become a rule here as we head through mid-April. So for our tropics here, this system's going to be moving east of the Bahamas and eventually towards Puerto Rico and Haiti and Dominican Republic here as we head towards Monday morning. So there it is, that low pressure winding up across parts of Bermuda, but look at much of the Caribbean during this time with a few showers here in Jamaica as we head towards Tuesday morning, towards Puerto Rico and the Northern and Lesser Antilles here, and also the Virgin Islands. That storm continues towards the northeast here, and look at this. It's not until Thursday here into Friday we start to see the tail end of this frontal boundary bring some moisture here towards Nicaragua, Belize, and the western tip of Cuba, the Cayman Islands by the 29th here in Jamaica, as well as we head towards the 29th into the 30th. So we see that tail end of the frontal boundary as we head into Easter weekend. You can see shower and thunderstorm action continuing from Central America all the way towards Jamaica, Hispaniola, and then eventually Puerto Rico. And that pretty much washes out as we head towards April 1st and 2nd. Now look what we start to see out here. This is a tropical wave, an early season tropical wave moving through the Southern and Lesser Antilles. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on here as we go out in time because it heads into the Eastern Caribbean by April 3rd. And for the tropics here, I just wanted to freeze frame this on April 1st. Doesn't this massive high pressure system remind you of early hurricane season when the Bermuda highs are setting up and then you start to get these proverbial low pressure systems coming off the coast of Africa that turn into essentially tropical waves? I just wanted to throw that out there. We seem to be ahead going into hurricane season. So for our precipitation, liquid rainfall here across the Caribbean, this week looks pretty quiet with the exception for the northern Caribbean islands here, Jamaica, Puerto Rico. We'll probably eke out anywhere from 10 to 25 millimeters, nothing more than a quarter to a half an inch here. And then as we head towards, say, Easter weekend here, the northern coast of Nicaragua, Belize here, we could be looking at 50 to 80 millimeters, probably 2.5, 3 inches here. So something to keep an eye on here. As we get over towards the Eastern Caribbean here, there's that low pressure here kicking rainfall across the Caribbean islands as we head through midweek. That's going to average about 13 to 26 millimeters locally higher. Nothing more than a half to 3/4 of an inch on average here. Maybe a little bit lower towards 1/3 of an inch. But, not looking too bad. Once we get rid of that low as we head towards Easter, that'll be pushing up towards parts of Bermuda in these areas where you'll see some very heavy rainfall. I got plenty more weather for you in just a moment, but take a look at my affiliate. Do you want some awesome maps? Check this out. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MediaMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. All right, so taking a look at our temperatures here, this is what we're looking at here. This is a major disparity here. We have the blizzard going on out here in the plains. Just east of it, we have those warm temperatures to support that severe weather outbreak. All along the Gulf Coast, it's near 80 degrees into your Tuesday. That cold air is going to lift to the northeast here along with our blizzard. That's going to push some warm air to the east. It's also going to get some stronger thunderstorms approaching parts of the Ohio Valley. As we get into Wednesday, look at this. The cold air is kind of camped out here in the northern plains with that snowpack. But look at back east. We're pushing 60s all the way up to parts of the Ohio Valley into the northeast. And then as we get towards Thursday, well, look what starts to happen. A big chunk of warmth here. Watch this, because even Florida getting up towards the mid to high 80s. As we get into Friday, this warmth is just going to build, and it continue to try to push to the east here, but you start to notice what's happening here. There's a front somewhere in here, and to the north of that front, we're heading into Easter weekend. This usually happens, where you got much cooler air to the north, and then you got this big warm bubble to the south that's going to promote some strong to severe thunderstorms with some of these big storms. Hey, extended outlook for hometown viewers, Binghamton, Scranton, Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Look at this, Monday through Friday. It is looking like a lot of sun throughout the week. The only day that it's really not looking that great is Wednesday. Showers pretty much the whole day, a quarter to a half an inch likely. But look at this. Most of the week, we start off sunny around 50. Tuesday, pushing a little warmer. Wednesday, the showers. Thursday, a chance of showers. It's probably your coolest day, as well as Friday. It will be breezier on Friday, though, heading down towards the mid-40s. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of MediaMark's Weather. Join me on Facebook at MediaMark, also at Weather Northeastern, also at Hurricane Northeastern, and also at Susquehanna Weather. Also Twitter at Weather Eastern, and you can visit me at MediaMark.com. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to check out my winter weather outlook for 2023-24, and link in the description down below, as well as my affiliate, Trilogy Maps.